Morning everyone, welcome to, or afternoon should I say, welcome to Explore and Draw Online. My name's Luna Gigo and Explore and Draw is an art group established in 2017 to encourage people to connect with their inner creative. I've got my lovely cup of hot tea, you know I love this, don't you? My lemon and ginger and honey and a little turmeric. I'm quite excited about today. Want to talk to you about acrylic painting, and I'm going to be talking to you about how we build up an acrylic painting in layers using an underpainting and glazes. So this is why I've got my old overalls on, because acrylic paint gets everywhere. You get it absolutely everywhere, so you've got to protect yourself and your tables and your chairs and your floor. Hi Sean, how are you doing? How's Caris? How's Ellen and Graham? Hi Mum, thanks for your message. I was really nervous this morning. I've been out in the garden meditating just to calm down. I'd done it yesterday. And there was this bird and it was like constantly chattering, and I thought that's like my brain at the moment. It keeps going over everything and everything, and I think, you know, the other day I spoke to you on the video The Art of Self-Discovery about letting go of the fear of having a go at something. Well, I know I encourage you to paint every day, but I know these are difficult times and you know, you don't always feel like it, do you? You've got that voice in your head, you're worried about this, that and the other, and that little bird was a reminder to me of, you know, how I felt going. In the end, I had to ignore it because I think it's either ignore it or sort of come indoors and not do my meditation. And yeah, it was funny. Who we got? We got Fiona. Hi Fiona, how are you? Oh, I'm looking forward to showing you all these techniques. Hi Justin, how are you doing? And Olivia, lovely to see you. I miss you all. Hi Jane, I hope you've linked your friends. Hi Renachi, nice to see you. I love what you're doing with the children. It's absolutely fantastic. They're just free, aren't they, Renachi? They just do what they want, and that's what I want to encourage today. So I'm going to show you some techniques, and even if you just get one thing out of it, then you can apply that to your own practice, and then I'll be very happy. And obviously don't forget to share your work, anything that you produce, and always happy to share it on Explore and Draw in the album. I'll make an album up. Straight after this we're going to go out for a walk just so I can chill out for a little bit. Oh, Neil's flashing a piece of paper at me. If you enjoy these videos and you get something out of it and you're able, don't forget, buy me a coffee. That does me a favour at the moment. Oh, we've got loads of people. Hi, Keris, how are you? Hi, Trish, how you doing? Oh, I love it. Everyone's, and it's Andre. Hi, Andre, Leah, Paul from upstairs. Hi, Paul. Hi, Rosie. Hi, Kelly. I've got her dog Bilbo to wake up. Oh, he's adorable, isn't he? Oh, it's lovely. You can all have a chat in the comments. There is a delay in the comments, so I don't get to see them, and it does distract me, you know, when I'm trying to answer something, but I love it that you all chat on there, and then I really enjoy reading those later. So don't forget, you can share this video while it's live. There's a little heart button. You can press that loads of times. All these hearts come up, and then that encourages other people to watch as well. So today, let me have a little look. I wanted to show you a new way in with acrylic paint. You can also apply this to oil painting. I am going to demonstrate with acrylic painting because oil painting just takes a while to dry, okay, and it's not as easy to show you what I want to show you. This is why I've got my overalls on. Let's have a little look. I'm going to be using a soft body acrylic paint today. They come in different bodies. When you start looking at all the art materials online, your head will get in a fog. You'll think, I don't know what to buy. So a soft body is just a standard acrylic paint, and a heavy body is an acrylic paint with a gel in it that makes it thicker. I sent everyone a video the other day and I shared it on Explore and Draw Wall. It was this guy, he just showed with 8 colours how he could make the full colour range, and I thought it was really easy to understand. And you might have all these paints. I know most of you most probably got the primary colours, the red, yellow and blue, and you may have a few others in there, but I didn't want you to run out and buy everything that he said, but I just thought it was a really easy to understand video, and I made my own chart up here because I had all the colours. I'd brought the green gold and thought, oh, that was a mistake buy, but it actually wasn't. It was one of the colours in his list, and it gave me a really lovely green. So I've learned quite a lot from just watching that video. But like I say, I don't want you to rush out. I want you to just experiment. And what I'm going to show you today is a way that you can experiment with your paints and just see what you've got and have a little play. Oh, look. Oh, I love it. There's so many of you here today. There was loads of people interested in this event, so I'm really pleased. Hi, Joe. Hi, Dawn. How are you? Well, Joe, I love what you've been dressing up every day, haven't you? You look fantastic in those outfits. Oh, I love them. Hi, Justin. Oh, it's lovely. Thank you for all joining me this morning. Don't forget to share this video afterwards. So last time I spoke to you on the art of self-discovery, I showed you this, but I didn't get time to go into it, and I want to go over that, and then I'm going to apply the underpainting to the picture of the painting of the rose. You know, I said to you I'm not going to sit here and draw it and then you draw it. Well, I am. I changed my mind, but I'll see how much I can get done today, because you know what it's like. I go on and on, don't I? So, cover your floors, wear old clothing. I've got my notes. Oh. Right, now the first thing I wanted to show you was this was the wash and the palette knife and the sponge, like the stipple sort of effect. So today we're going to be using raw umber paint. I'm going to show you burnt umber as well. Don't worry if you don't have raw umber. You could maybe mix up like a grey, the black and the white, or you could mix all your 3 primary colours together and get a brown and put a bit more blue in it. Put more blue, make it like a dark brown. So you could have a little go. So I've got my paper. It has to be a heavier quality paper when you're painting with acrylics, because otherwise your paper will all buckle and it will start pulling away as you start putting the paint and rubbing into it. So it's a heavy quality paper, but not textured. I've taped it all the way around because that will, if it does bubble and then you dry it with a hairdryer, it will go back flat. I've put the tape all the way round and I've put 3 sections just so I can demonstrate. Now, I've tried to get as organised as I can, but you know what it's like. Hi Angela, how are you? I know you're going to love this today because you've done a start of like an underpainting in that waterfall picture that you're doing, very surrealist. I love that, and I think you're quite like this. So you can do your planning in the underpainting and then do it. Hi Fran, hi, oh you've linked your friend Michelle, thank you for joining us. Hi Jane, nice to meet you. Oh, it's brilliant, we've got some new people. Explore and Drawers are all friendly, and normally we run events all around the Medway globe, don't we, and you can come along, and when things go back, hopefully soon, we can get out there. So I've got my raw umber here. I'm just going to add some water to it. Now, the difference between a wash and a glaze, it's really simple, and I wouldn't even worry about it. I'm just making this quite thin, and I'm just going to put this wash. Didn't want it to do that. Don't worry about this. So I'm just making this wash. So it's a little bit of paint and water. Now you could use, there's all these different kinds of gels and mediums. Gels are quite thick. They can change the consistency of the acrylic paint. Actually, that's what I forgot. I'm not going to use them today. I was going to. So I'm just going to put that down. And mediums are a bit looser, so they're like they look white, like a PVA glue, but they're basically a clear acrylic paint that you can mix into. I was going to use it to stop the drips, but I can't even get the lid off the pot sometimes. So that's the raw umber. Now I've got them behind. You see these difference in tones? So you've got the raw umber here, you've got the burnt umber here, and you've got the burnt sienna there. Now you see they get warmer, don't they, as they go up. So this is why I'm using the raw umber, because the difference in the colour range, you're working in a shorter sort of perimeter to the burnt umber. Like if you was working with black and white, you've got this big colour chart of going from, like, 100 down to 1. But here it's slightly shorter, which is quite useful when you're doing an underpainting. If you get into this, when I show you the underpainting during the rows, if you get into this way of painting, there's lots of videos you can watch online, and you can really get into it and study it. I did for quite a few months, but today we're just going to do the basics. Right. Have you yessoed the paper? No, I haven't, but you can, okay? It will give a slight texture. I would do that with a canvas. I would yesso my canvas, I would sand it all back, and then I may yesso it again, sand it back again, yesso it again, and sand it back again so it's smooth. So play about with it. If your paper's got a texture on it, you can glaze. I did with my Triple Goddess painting, but it kind of doesn't respond in the same way because the glaze falls over and falls in the cracks. But have a go, see what you think. I've got other questions. Have you been wearing your hat since I last saw you? Hi Jenny, lovely to see you. I do miss you. No, haven't been wearing my hat. I thought I'd wear it on the party, and then I thought I'd wear it at a few events. I've worn it loads, haven't I, every time. So now the burnt umber, slightly warmer. Okay, I'm going to just put some of this on. Neil's sending me all your little messages because I don't get a chance, and if I look I get totally distracted. So you see the difference there. So I'm just saying this is a wash, like your first coat is your wash there. Okay, now if you was doing a wash with your paint and you got lines and you didn't want lines, I'm all organised really, you could just use a softer brush to sort of get rid of them there. Okay, I hope you can see that. I'm going to build it up a little bit. Now the sponging, the stippling, I've got these wonderful sponges, like the natural sponges, but I've used household ones in the past. It gives a different effect. So I've got one soaking in water here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the raw umber. This is, last time the Art of Self-Discovery, you can watch the videos back online. That's the beauty of live streaming. I talk about making your mark, don't I? And everyone's got a different mark, and you're discovering your own mark, or any mark you make is your own, but these are different marks that you can make because all of these techniques that I'm showing you are really old traditional ways that people would use in the Renaissance, say with the oil paintings. And when you look at those paintings, there's quite a lot of depth, isn't there, in there? If you look at a modern acrylic painting, it can look very flat. And because I really love glazing, I always say, I want to put a glaze on top of that. The thing with glazing is if you was, you can try, there is a glazing acrylic medium that you can use. I haven't used it. With oil paint it would be linquin, which you could put in, or a glazing fluid. They always leave a bit of a gloss, which it can be too glossy, and that's what puts some people off, whereas your flat acrylic painting can be quite matte. So I would always have a matte medium in my acrylic painting to keep it flat. I didn't want the shine, but that might put people off when you use oil paints. There's this high sheen, but it actually gives great depth to the painting. So the stippling is with the sponge. So this is the raw umber. Now obviously I could have gone over the top of that glaze. I'm just going to give that, and now the second you go over the top of this, that becomes your glaze. just going to build these up as we're going along because it saves me using that hairdryer. Now if you was putting that on a canvas, you would brush that all over your canvas. You would mix a bit of turpentine. It's most probably 80 to 20 of linquin, and then you put your raw umber, or some people use burnt umber. It's absolute preference what you want to use. They'd paint it all over the canvas, and then they would use a cloth to remove the excess, or wipe it all over to remove the excess. I'm just going to put a light wash, but it's now a glaze because it's the second one, on the burnt sienna, just so we build it up a little bit. Right, not bothered about them marks, they might serve me well. Now I'm going to go in with the burnt it's burnt umber I'm using, yeah, not burnt sienna, sorry. Burnt sienna is even warmer, this is burnt umber. And I'm going to start sticking it with that. Okay. So can you see those beautiful marks that you're getting? Now you could put these over that once that was dry. So that will give you an effect. Here I'm going to use the palette knife. Got loads of people here today. This is lovely. Oh, I love seeing all your faces. Hi Trish, how are you? Really lovely to see you here. Hi Jill, nice to see you. Oh, it's lovely. You're all on here. Hi Sue. Elvin, there's lots of people. Sue, I loved your painting that you done. With the copper pots, it was beautiful, and I think you're going to get a lot out of today. So the raw umber, I'm mixing with my palette knife now. They come in all different shapes. Okay, there's all different types. And I'm just mixing it in here to the water, and I'm just going to put some on there. This is lovely. If I'm doing this on a canvas or on an oil painting, sometimes it just picks up marks from the paper or the canvas, and it's really wonderful, and you can just drag it across. Now I'm going to do it with the burnt umber. Yeah. You'll get to know what your palette knives do. I'm not fantastic with them, but I just love the way that they give that different mark. Right, so I'm just going to use this horrible noisy hairdryer. Just quickly to dry that off at the top mostly. Make sure I got it at full heat. Sorry about this, there's no way round it. Is it really loud, Neil? I don't get so much time to show you all these techniques that in Explore and Draw I might mention it, so it's lovely to have time to do this, but I just have to dry it off in between. So I'm going to add, say here, I added 2 coats, didn't I? The first was the wash and then the second was the glaze. Now, let me just go, I'm going to mix, on my palette, I'm just playing with the colours that I've now got there. So I might mix a bit of the burnt umber in with the raw umber. I'm just going to put that there. So you can still see the marks underneath, but it's given like another tone. And then here, what should we do? Let's put a bit of that on. That's a bit of burnt umber. You've most probably done this already, but not realised that you was adding like a thin sort of layer glaze to it. So you can still see the underneath. I might add a little bit of I'm going to stick to the primary just to start with. So in that, just using the brush, I've got a flat brush, but use anything you want. Different brushes will give you different effects. So if you've got a bigger brush that's all stubbly, you could brush that in and then stubble it a bit, do a little bit of this with it. So I'm going to mix a little bit of blue in. Just going to put that along there. You can put it in, you can get another brush to just blend it. Even though this is thick paper, it still is buckling a little bit. Put some here. Try and keep it as a wash. Now if you put on too strong, acrylic's a bit more difficult, but you can remove a little bit if you wanted to, okay? I've got a cadmium yellow, I'm just going to call it cad yellow. I've had to learn all how to say all the paints. They've got such difficult names. Why do they make everything so complicated? Right, I'm going to use the cad yellow now. It's a strong colour of yellow if you use it in painting. It can be a bit, which is why glazes are nice, because you can put it on and then you can knock it back with the glaze. So I'm just going to put a bit of cad yellow. It's very thin. If you had like a glass palette or a plastic palette, you would be able to see through it. Some people might say, well, can you use any paint for a glaze? Well, obviously, if it's a really opaque paint, like a white, no, you couldn't. But you could still do an effect with a white wash over something. So I don't like to limit myself. If the paint is transparent, have a go at a glaze. You'll soon know if it is or not. You can put it on a bit of Perspex or on a glass palette, or you could put it on water it right down, because you've got to get this quite thin, okay? Cad yellow is quite highly pigmented. So have a look. If you can have a what do I mean? What do we get through loads of, Neil? Like not toilet paper, the other stuff. Kitchen roll. Your brain doesn't work. So you can make a wash and put the brush on the kitchen roll and see what colour is it light enough just to get that wash. The other side, let's use a little bit of cadmium red. So these are really raw colours, okay? So it's quite strong, so you won't want a lot of that. I'm going to even get that even lighter. Okay. Now you see when I'm putting that over there, like I said, the acrylic paint, you can mix in the glazing medium, but you don't have to. You could use in normal medium, not a gel, that would make it thicker, but a normal medium you could put in. But that, so you still see the painting underneath. This can really, you can have great fun experimenting here. Yeah. As that dries, you can add another. As that dries, you see all these interesting things happening. Now, let's take a little bit of blue, mix it in. I've got me scourer now, that's all right. So whatever colours you've got, you could maybe make your own colour chart up here. Something like that. Get all your paints out, put your primary colours down, all your reds, all your yellows, all your blues, and then you can have a go at making like your secondary colours, your greens. I'm going to talk to you about that a little bit later. So I'm just going to add, so that's called stippling. Okay, and if you was doing it with a brush, it'd be like pointillism, wouldn't it? Now let's get my sponge again. Oh, it's hid itself, it does that. Right, that's it. So this side, what colour should I put on there? Let's use something really quite awful. Look, let's put a little bit of blue on there as well. Oh, it's awful, isn't it? Look. See that? Really quite, yuck. And then here, let's get the remaining residue of what's on here, because we're just playing, we're just having fun. Okay, mix that up and put some on there. You see, because I've dried that off, I'm building that up. Let's take a really, I'm going to say ghastly colour. Yellow is a very difficult colour to use in painting. You wouldn't use a lot necessarily unless you was using that strong palette. I suppose Turner used a lot of yellow ochre and yellow, he said that 100 glazes isn't enough. So what he's talking about is these glazes, and I'm going to show you how to put them over the painting in a minute. On my some of my paintings, I've done up to 50 glazes, and it gets that real depth. Right, so you see I'm putting this, so I'm almost letting that fill the paper. Let's put a really awful red bit there. Oh, I've ruined it. Oh, it's terrible. Isn't it awful? Right, just to start off. So they're just your primaries. I'm not going to use any white at the moment. I'm going to dry this off quickly. That horrible hairdryer again. I'm going to have a look at your comments. Terrible sound, isn't it? Can't help this, got to do it. When we get the technology right, we might be able to have some lovely peaceful music play, cuts in and plays over the top. Do you think we could do that, Neil? Right, so now I'm going to take, so this is quite ghastly, isn't it? So I'm going to get a little bit of a wash so you can sort of change between the two, use one effect or one technique. So all these techniques are interchangeable. Now, this is the raw umber on the white. I'm just going to knock that back. So I'm basically doing a wash, a glaze over the top of that. Let's put a little bit darker. Okay, get a big fluffy brush. This is a dry brush, I can just dry it off like that. Right, so you're pretty limited. I'm going to put a little red one on here, I'm just making it up really. Like that. Okay, so you still see the painting underneath. Here, let's put a little bit of red, brown, yellow, it's all mixing up. Let's take that right across. So on that bright red, if I was to do like, say mix a little bit of the blue in with the red that I've got on that palette there, a little bit purpley, but it'd be a muddy purple. You could knock that back. Okay. Might have to dry that off a bit more. Look at the time, past. I really wanted to give this half an hour, this section. I'm just gonna, I've got these tearaway palettes, but only for today and because I was using a palette knife. I have another one. Now, you have your cadmium yellow, don't you? It's this yellow. But you also have, I know I was going to do this, yeah, your lemon yellow, which is more that colour. It's like a lighter, fresher, more vibrant yellow. So I'm going to put that on my palette. With the reds, you have your cadmium red, don't you? Quite a sort of pillar box red almost. And then there's other kind of reds, or they're such difficult names. Quinacridone is one, but I have a crimson. I also have this one, I've written it down how to say, Naphthalene Carmine. Naphthalene Carmine. I've had to learn all these. They do make life difficult. If you look up all the paints, they'll have all these in different dark, light, medium hues. You could spend an absolute fortune. So you can see that this red is a lot more sort of bluey than this red, a lot deeper. So this is the same, bit cheaper. I'm going to use this one. put that on my palette. Could I use an old makeup brush? Do you know what, Rose? You must have read my mind. When I come to paint the flower, I'm going to show you the makeup brush. These are two of my makeup brushes, right? These are for more detail work, but you mean like the blusher one, don't you? I was looking at mine today. Yeah, you can. Sometimes they're cheaper. These are wonderful. This one is like a filbert, you know, this round, and then this angled one. They're lovely. They're really, really good. So yeah, why not? Right, so I've introduced and the blues. You've got the ultramarine blue, quite sort of a good blue, but quite, if you're making a purple, it'd go like a dirty colour with that, if you just mix that with your cadmium. So, let's have a look. Oh, June, you can watch right from the beginning. Don't worry at all. You can watch it back. Now, ultramarine, you might have a phthalo blue. You might have a Prussian blue. You might have, I've got this primary cyan. It's really quite strong colour. So I'm going to use that, but any other blue, bit more vibrant blue you want. So I'm going to put that on there. Because you see, I'm kind of limited with these colours. I could play around, you could get lots of variations, but I'm still limited to that. So let's wash in over the top, maybe here, a little bit of that. You see, it's much deeper. And then that blue, it's really, I've got to watch this, don't get everywhere, really is quite, let's put a little bit of blue there. Going to take it to the next level, really. You know, when I say about my self-scapes, I give a talk on YouTube about my self-scapes from my painting. This is what I'm talking about. Right, always have your clean water. I've got lots of jugs here, so make sure, don't let your water go all brown. Make sure you change it. I say to people, explore and draw, change your water. You can't create anything if it's all muddy. So these are just washing across. If I had a bit more time, I'd have the music on and I'd just get into this. Let's mix these two together. Get a nice purple. Let's knock that back. So I'm just taking, so these washes, what now become glazes, are just covering up that underneath, but you can still see that underneath. Let's use that lemon yellow here. Don't want to spend too much longer on this, but you could see how you could start building these up. Different layers, different intensities. Remember, you can remove bits. We laugh at one of the videos because we say drips are good, drips are lovely. So you can remove a little bit, but you see how it totally changes it. Now, I'm not going to spend any longer on that. There are differences in the colours. If you mix the lemon yellow with that sort of crimson red, you'll get a stronger kind of orange, different orange. If you mix that blue, the Prussian or the phthalo blue, with that lemon, rather than just your ultramarine with your cadmium, you'll get this much brighter green than you would normally. Okay, I've made a right mess here. Now these are the ones that I done yesterday. I had a little bit more time and I was just playing around. I was putting in some quite strong colours. That was like the Prussian blue and more white. I started introducing white. That's what I haven't done today. you can start introducing white, and then what you end up with is like these mini little landscapes that you can work into by using all them different techniques. And if you was working on a canvas and you was doing your wash and your glazes and you was using your palette knife and your sponge and your stippling and then drying it off, you could get all these different effects that keep building. With oil paints, you'd have to let it dry. So you put the liquid, you paint all you're going to paint, you put your wash down on your background, then you paint everything you're going to paint, and then you let that dry. With your liquid, usually a day or two. If you've got white or black paint, don't make it too thick, maybe twice the length of time. If you just use linseed oil, even longer. So the liquid will help you with the oil paint, and then you can come back the next day, put a glaze over the top, and then you can leave that to dry. So can you see how oil painting, if you're doing like 100 glazes, 100 layers, that can take months and months and months, and obviously a lot more expensive to get an oil painting, isn't it, than an acrylic painting. Okay, so these are my like little world landscapes. So you can see that if I'd have just put the acrylic paint on straight away to try and get that effect, it would have been very difficult. But because I had that undercolour, the brown, it gives it, say, like an old-fashioned feel, but a different sort of look. Glazing did go out of fashion. It became overused, and you can overuse it. It can become very, very heavy and very, very dark. So, looking at a difficult subject of a flower. Okay. They're very delicate, aren't they? This possibly isn't the best example of how to do it, but it's quite helpful, I found. Now, with modern day techniques, this flower, you could just draw it on a piece of paper. But don't forget that you could hold the photocopy of the flower that you're using up against the window, and you could put a piece of paper against that, and you could draw around it lightly just to give you the outline. This is what I've done today here, just to save time, because it's 22 already. The time just runs away with you on here. So you could trace around it, you could light box it, you could put it on the window, you could draw it, you could go straight in with the raw umber and white and draw straight in with that. Now, what I'm going to do, I was going to leave these on here, so I've still got them, but I've got some raw umber over here. Hopefully I haven't mixed it all in. Oh, I'm so messy with my paints, Neil will tell you. So, I hope you can all see this. What's that? Does it matter if you mix the brand? Not really. Some brands are better than others. When you look at the whites, I do find Winsor & Newton a very good brand. You can't get them at the moment. Everyone's ordering paint. Yeah, Winsor & Newton are very good. So different makes. Obviously, the more you pay with acrylic paint, quite often the better. Hi Claire, Claire Tolpo. Listen to your daughter Nadia online. She was amazing, wasn't she? Absolutely fantastic singing that Dreams. Oh, it was beautiful. I'm so pleased she's doing that. Listening and weeding. You're in the garden. It's lovely out there, isn't it? So, just raw umber and white. I hope this isn't, I might mix it. What I might do, I might use one of these trays because I can get a little puddle of water. Now, let's get me raw umber. Oh, I use, this is a nice make, Ara, A-R-A. I don't know how you pronounce that. That's quite a good make. Oh, I did set some up in here, a bit more organised than I thought. So, raw umber and white. Okay, and you could, I'm going to wish I had a medium in this to stop it running, but we'll go with it. I've got my makeup brush, Rose, all right? I've traced out, just held that up to the window and just put very finely the lines just to save time, but you could make a very thin wash of that raw umber like that and draw with it, okay, with a pointy brush. So you could, and I'm really Neil said to me, just use this technique because you won't have time, and he's exactly right. So I could draw like that with it. I'd make quite a thin wash to do that. So I'm looking at my flower, trying to be organised, but it won't work, will it? Right, now when I look at this flower, very hard to paint. I'm looking at all the shaded areas. So some people will show you the underpainting of raw umber and white or burnt sienna and white, and they'll show you all the different grades like this, and they'll have them all mixed up in their palette and then meticulously go through. I tend to do it on the painting or just as I go. So I'm just going to be mixing combinations of raw umber and white now. So I'm looking for those shaded areas. I can see it's under there. So I'm just going to put those in. I am going to struggle with my drips. Just at the things that are in shadow, just for the moment. Okay, this is going to be quite difficult to do online. Just going to put those definite areas in, having to concentrate a little bit now. So I'm just going to squint my eyes actually, just to see where those areas are. I've got some pre-done here and we might skip across at some point, but I just want to show you this. How are we doing for time? I don't know where the time goes. So I'm just looking at areas. You may see others where you think, oh no Luna, you've gone a bit dark on there, that's not quite that dark, but you see these slight variations. I hope you can see that. What's hard when you're painting is finding the mid-tones. You can find the dark tones normally quite easy and the light tones, but it's finding those mid-tones. So you can start from dark to light or from light to dark, but I'm going to put in those darkest areas. And I'm just going to go around picking out, hope I'm not blocking your view. This brush is quite nice. It would be called a filbert brush like that. I can start putting these lighter areas over. Working all the way round. What you find is if you do put a wash, if you can see those marks underneath and you can put a wash, that will automatically give you your mid-tones, you see, especially when you're not sure. So you're going to carry on building these up. So you're looking at your painting, your picture, whatever it is, and you're just looking at those different, it's a lovely way to get to know tones. Just to say, okay, so you see I'm sort of almost putting it over. I know there is a darker tone here. It's a definite, so I'm going to put that in. And there's one where that leaf touches that. And it definitely is darker under there. At the moment, I'm just going to work with the raw umber, working around this picture. Okay, just putting on these tones and then I'd start going out. Once I've got those in, it's very quick, I'm doing this really quick, I'm going to mix a bit of white in. Actually, what I can do is go straight in with the white. So those lighter areas, so then I could pick out, well, where are the real lighter areas? And I can just build this up. Picking out those light areas, those definite, at the moment, what seems to me to be definite light areas on the paint, on the picture. But you may change your mind, they may not become so definite, they may become more in between as you start working, because no flower has this dark edge around it, okay? But just initially, with the rose or a flower, it's quite complicated, the makeup of it. So the more that I'm sitting doing this at home, the more I start to see the difference in the values, the lightness and the tone, the darkness. And what you can do is, you know, you can carry on turning your board around like this and carry on working into those different tones, okay? And then once you've done all of that, I'm glad I've done this now. All right, we're going to skip ahead. So you'd carry on doing this with your flower, turning it round, turning your picture round and picking out the darker areas and the light areas, and then doing all the in-betweens and the subtle differences, squinting your eyes and turning it another way and thinking, where are those areas? And then you start what they call cutting in around the edges. So you start taking this and cutting in like this, okay, around your flower. Now, this is one that most probably took me about 30 or 40 minutes the other day. Oh, let's turn it around. So I've had a bit of time to build that up. I know I've jumped from, you know, just starting it to now, but it is 1:45 already. And I really want to leave it at an hour. So you carry on just using raw umber and white. Now, if it was anything other than a flower, you could mix in a little bit of blue into that. You could use a bit of burnt umber to get the darkest darks and the light. Now what I want you to think about is your washes. Just put a wash on just initially, just to see where those colours are. Now remember I said to you about the cad blue and the magentas and the crimson red, the cad blue and then the Prussian blue, and then I said to you about the yellow, the cadmium yellow, and then the lemon yellow. So if I was just looking at this, trying to find out where the lemons are, let's just go in with the cad yellow as a sort of a wash to start with. So I just think, okay, I'm just going to put, you still see the underpainting, but I'm going to just start putting these cad yellows in like this. I don't know where the time goes. I feel like I went on too much. I hope I haven't. I hope that you can see what I'm saying here, because the reason I don't always do these when we're doing Explore and Draw is because people just want to get on. They want to just get on and do it, and that's what I think you do, you know. So I show you something and then you can carry it forward. So we're just putting these lemony tones here. You most probably can see more. Remember, turn the picture around, keep checking. And then I'm going to go in with this, like, the cad red. If I make that into a wash, glaze, sorry, it's going to be quite strong, going to come towards you, whereas that crimson red is going to be a little bit more bluey. It's going to go away from you. So I'm just going to use the cad red. There's not a lot of colour on this flower, but just so that I can put these little areas in. Okay, so I just pick those out. Just picking up, and you can obviously, you saw with the glazes before, didn't you? You can go over that all different times, and then what you would do, once you carry on building up these glazes, you'd start picking out the white again. So I've brought it from here to here. So I've carried on putting glazes onto this one, and then I've gone back into the white. So look at your values and your tone again. Am I all right for time? Yes. So let me go in with the magenta here. A little bit stronger, but also a little bit bluer, the crimson. I'm going to go in there. It's a very subtle, sometimes do use my fingers, things like this. I know that red's going to make it come towards you, but for the moment I'm not going to worry. I'm just looking at the hues. Okay. So once I get that on, and I'd be spending a lot longer doing this, then I would go in with my whites. Okay. Right. I feel like I'm really rushing ahead, but I don't know how else to show you. Like that. Yeah, that one. Where's my round palette gone? There it is. So here, now I'd go back into this once I've got the glazes, and I'd start putting the whites in. This is before I've even really put any colour on. Sometimes you can make up a painting just from the raw umber and white, and then just glazes, and not a lot more. You can just build up a painting like that. It can look very effective. But this is just one way, and then you can start picking out those lighter areas again with your white and just finding where they are. Okay, you could obviously go over the top. I've done all different stages with these. I'm so pleased now. And even if you looked at it the next day, you'd see even more colour variations that you didn't see the day before. And you just gradually build those up. Now, you'd carry on working that with your white, and then maybe even go in with your raw sienna a little bit more, or with your glazes a little bit more, and you'd carry on building that picture up in layers. Let me just see, I'm skipping. So, say you get it from this point to this point, you've put in some more white, and then you've put in some more glazes, okay? Now we can start going in with actual paint. Now you could do it anyway. You could paint without glazes and then put glaze over the top. But if with oil paints, I don't know if you've heard the saying, fat over leans. You'd have a thin to start, like a glaze, and then you build in the oil paint, then a glaze, then you build in. So you wouldn't go really heavy oil paint at the beginning of a painting and then go thin. But you could build the oil painting up in layers. Okay, so you could use your glazes, then your oil paint quite thinly, then another glaze, then a bit more oil paint, then another glaze, a bit more oil paint. So you're building up this fat over thick, fat over lean. So you start building your picture up. You can take days over this, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to look at the colours. So I've made my colour chart. I've made my colour chart on the wall, and so I know what paints I've got, and I know what oranges and yellows I've got. So I'm going to use a bit of cadmium orange and a little bit of the lemon, not the cad yellow, that's a little bit dark. So just the lemon and the cadmium yellow. Just going to mix those together. Getting this paint everywhere. Right, let's get that in. And then I need my white. So get that. They're very subtle on a flower, aren't they? So very, very subtle. I could keep going with that actually. And then I could just pick out, put that on. You'll soon see if that's the colour you want. And wherever you see that colour on the picture, you can start brushing it in. So this is a bit of a heavier paint. Let's have a look. Get my eye working now. Okay. And as you go in your whites, if you add a little bit of lemon into your white paint, it almost makes the white even, it comes towards you even more. So let's see if I've got that colour anywhere. Oh yeah, that's quite nice. And I can just keep mixing. I'm mainly focusing on this area here at the top. You let each layer dry, okay? Now once that, you've built those up, the peaches, the oranges, you've tried all them out before you've started, you've got them on your chart. And it depends what colours you're playing with. You'll have a totally different colour palette. Have we got another question? Will my red rose pick, would I still start with the raw umber? Very delicately, a very light raw umber. Yes, you can. Why don't you try it? I would do it exactly the way that I built this up, Angela. So with your raw umber and white, I don't even know where that's gone now. So with your raw umber and white to start with, building that up, and then go in with your washes, with your cadmium and then your crimson reds, and then start mixing your pinks. So you'd mix your cadmium red with your white paint, you get a nice pink. And then what happens if you mix your crimson paint with a little bit of white, yeah, or a little bit of crimson in with your white, and then check all those colours, all those variations. Okay, so you keep going with this, and don't forget to start building in your background. So the time, so say I was using my Prussian blue or my pure cyan blue and then a bit of lemon, I'd get a very sort of vibrant green almost. And I could start looking here, I could start putting colours here. That's what happened. I quite often do a lot of mixing on the paper. Let's mix a bit of blue into that. And the more you you can get really quite lovely with the mark. This is what they would call cutting in, when you cut in next to the painting. Okay, so once you're building up your flower, put the background in. You had your raw umber in the background, but you can start mixing in colours. And then if you mix a bit there, why don't you spread a bit over here? So you're going to have, you can build up, you can dry that off with the hairdryer, and then you can put like a Prussian blue or a cyan blue glaze over an area. Please don't run. Okay. You could let these dry. Let me pick a bit. And then you could put another glaze over these. Right? And where the darker bits, and you can keep building and building and building the picture. Now, I feel like I've rushed through it so quickly. Yeah?
Yeah.
And I think that you can, I mean, what I done when I was doing this to show everyone, like the prep that I done for this, I thought, well, what happens if I built all this time spending, like building this all up, and then I just took like a scarlet red or something like that, and I just literally done that. And you're thinking, oh my God, Luna, don't do that. I'm sorry, the blues run, but say I just done that. Well, that's exactly what I done to this painting here. I got it to this point, okay, and then I just absolutely covered it in a crimson greys. Just thought, yeah, just cover it up. And then I went back to the whites and the yellows and all those lovely colours that I discovered, and I start picking them in. And it just brought it out, and I could keep going with this. So you can't go wrong. You can just learn, okay? I know I've skipped through this, but I'm really aware of people's time and how valuable it is. You can go online, you can look at glazing, you can look at oil painting if you get into it, but just have a little bit of experimentation. Here, just before I finish, I'm going to give you a little bit of Prussian blue. Give that a glaze, Prussian blue that side. It's lovely. When you first put it on, you get a lovely sheen, and then it sort of settles down a little bit. This side, let's put a little bit of lemon. Oh, let's do a little bit of cad yellow there. Really bringing out. And like I said, I completely covered this one, and then I sort of carried on because you've got those undermarkings, and sometimes you get right into the alchemy of the paint, and as it starts becoming more and more like what you're painting, you get lost in the craft of it. And then when you get the edge of a flower, be careful not to get a dead exact edge. If your edge has gone slightly outside with your raw umber, when you put the cutting in, when you cut in, just use your finger, something, just to pull that edge back. You don't want very crisp lines around everything. And you just carry on building the painting up. So whether it's your backgrounds that you're playing with, just to experiment, okay? So why don't you have your primary colours, your cad red, your cad yellow and your ultramarine blue on one, and your raw umbers or the brown that you've made, and then on the other one have your scarlets, your crimsons, those other deeper reds, have the blues like the Prussian, the fallow blue. Oh, the names are terrible. and have those lemon yellow and have those on another and then start playing. So even if you went over something with your palette knife, like your background, and then you added like a cyan blue wash, you get these wonderful, look, I really like that one. And it was awful when I first started it. So I've whizzed through at 100 miles an hour. It's just the way that I deal with glazing and how I experiment and make my soundscapes, but you can apply it to something like a flower. If you wanted to paint a flower online, you could look up hundreds of different videos. There's so many different ways, but this is just a little way in for you. You can do anything, paint anything with this. Have a try. Let me have a look what Neil's got. If there's any suggestions for future exploring draws, then just let me know. Watch back, like, share it, share with your friends. If you like it, please, if you're able, buy us a coffee. We've gone right up to 1 o'clock. Have a wonderful day, and don't forget to post all your fantastic creations. I'll make an album and share them, okay? I'm busy for the next 2 weeks. I've got a really exciting new project, but I'll be back and we'll do more experimentation and play and have some fun. So give yourself that time. I've got to get, oh, it's so much mess here. Bye-bye. Take care. Thanks, everyone. I'll look at your lovely messages later, and thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it. Bye.